In this video, we'll take a look at what is most likely the easiest method for creating a quiz in Moodle for most users. Now, this will operate on the assumption that you've already created a quiz using another program, whether it's TestGen or any preferred method of quiz creation software, or if you've simply typed your responses in a Word document. To create our quiz, we're going to select Add an Activity, and then select Quiz. Here we need to quickly create the shell for our quiz. We do that by giving it a quick name. You can set an introduction if you'd like, set the open and close, number of attempts allowed. If you choose more than one attempt, then you can select from highest grade, average, first or last attempt. In this case, you might select average grade. I usually shuffle the questions randomly, and I start a new page about every 5 questions. You can also set it to shuffle within the questions, so letter A will be letter B for another student, or C or D for the other. I also usually uncheck right answer on the immediately after the attempt. I wait until the quiz is closed. So I uncheck these two, leave everything else as you see on the screen. I enable show the user's picture so that if I'm in the back of a lab watching the students take the test, I can easily identify, make certain that they are taking the test as themselves. There are many other options that you can choose to set or not set. I'm going to go ahead and breeze through them to keep this relatively short. Access restrictions. When you're all done, you'll select Save and Display. And we've now created, basically, as I said before, the shell of our quiz. Now at this point there are no questions in our quiz, but again, I'm operating on the assumption that you've already created a quiz using some type of software or in a Word document. What you'll need to do at this point is we're going to hover over Settings. We are going to click on the little drop down right next to where it says Question Bank, and we're going to select Import. Now at this point, the style or format rather that we'll be choosing to select is Aiken format. And basically all that it is it's a plain text format. And what that means is that we'll have to do a few things to tweak our Word document or PDF or whatever format we have it currently saved in to match this plain text format. I'll explain that in just a second. Once we create that file, we'll simply select Choose a File, attach it, and import it. So just to give you an example of how this would work, let's suppose that you had created a test. This was created using, I believe, TestGen software. All that you need to do is select the questions that you choose to use in your test. In this case, let me just select the first 5. You would copy these, so I went ahead and hit Control-C to copy them, and if you're on a Mac, you're going to use the program that comes standard with a Mac called TextEdit. If you're on a Windows computer, you're going to use Notepad, which also comes standard for Windows computers. Now at this point, I've gone ahead and opened TextEdit. It's very important to make sure that either in WordPad or TextEdit that you're operating in plain text mode. You can select that by going to the Settings menu from within the application, or if it's Notepad, you'll see a little menu bar. Just make sure that plain text is selected. When you're all set, go ahead and paste those responses into the window below. Now, let me just show you what it looks like. This is basically what you're looking at if you do a plain paste into, say, TextEdit or, again, Notepad. And what we ultimately would like to end up with is what I have created here on the left. Now this is basically the same set of questions, but I had to format it in a certain way so that Moodle could recognize it. You can see that one of the first things I had to do is to get rid of the numbers before each question. That's because Moodle represents each one of these as its own individual question regardless of the number before it. So the first thing we'll do, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll put a space in between each of these. Another thing to note at this point, everything has to be on the same line, so you can see that where by default this it dropped down to another line. I need to put my cursor here and go ahead and backspace that so that it's all on the same line. This is important so that it doesn't recognize it as a separate question. And while this may seem slightly tedious, keep in mind that it's much quicker than it is to manually go in and add questions one at a time in Moodle. All right, you can see that there are two other things that I had to do in order to make this match the Moodle format on the left. The first thing is, and I won't do this for the sake of time, but I had to change all of these letters to uppercase. So over here I would need to go through and put capital A, capital B, C, and D. So I would simply go through each one, backspace. Again, realizing that it does take a few moments to do this, it still saves a significant amount of time. The last thing that I had to do was I needed to let it know which answer was the correct answer. In this particular case, I just chose answer B for all questions, even though that will clearly not be correct for later questions. So in this last line, you just need to set the answers and make sure there's a space in between them. And once I've gone through and completed this for each one of these items, again remembering not to leave any space in between them, taking out these extra lines. And there you have it, I'm done. Now it took me a few seconds per question, but again, much faster than creating it from scratch. All right, at this point I could go ahead and save this file. I've already done that over here, so I won't bother to do it again. Once I have this text file saved on my computer, it's time to go back to Moodle. Once we're back in Moodle, we need to go ahead again, make sure that Aiken format is selected. We need to choose import category. Let's change it to sample quiz 2, which is where we'd like for these questions to be imported. Leave everything else at its default. Select choose a file from import. Browse for our sample Moodle quiz, which I placed on my desktop. Give it a quick name. Upload the file and select import. You can see that each of the 5 questions are shown below. If we click continue, this will bring us into our test. You can see the 5 questions again displayed. At this point we can go back to our quiz by clicking on the breadcrumb menu for the title of our quiz, in this case sample quiz 2. And you can see that at this point no questions have been added yet. We still need to add the questions to this quiz. So at this point click edit quiz. From the category drop down, select default for sample quiz 2, which is where I told it that I'd like my 5 questions to be imported. And at this point, I'm going to select all of these 5 questions. I'm going to click Add to Quiz. And at this point, believe it or not, the quiz is all set up and ready. If I click Sample Quiz 2 again, you'll now see that it gives me the option to attempt the quiz. And again, at this point, you're ready to distribute this to your students. You can go ahead and start an attempt just to test it and make sure that everything looks as it should. And again, you can see here are the 5 questions, all displayed in Moodle, all ready to go. You can see, because I chose for the individual's picture to be displayed, you can see the picture, you can see which question I'm working on. Students can flag a question if they'd like to come back to it. It'll actually put a small little red check mark next to that question. Again, once they go through and answer all of these, I'm just going to choose A for each one of these. I'll click Next, Submit All and Finish, Submit All and Finish once more, and you can see that it'll show me which questions I got right and wrong. And there you have it. It's already given me a score of 1 out of 5 and 45 seconds to take the test. And that's how easy it is to create a test using questions you've already made using another program.